A truck so rare you've probably never seen one on the road or even heard of it before. These aren't your everyday vehicles. They're the unicorns of trucks, each with a story that's as intriguing as their mysterious existence. So here are some of the most insanely rare pickup trucks, and starting from the Ford Durango is a special vehicle with an interesting story behind it. It was a coupe utility vehicle designed for just two people and was made in limited numbers by Ford Motor Company from 1979 to 1982. The Durango came about because Ford teamed up with National Coach Works, a company in Los Angeles, California. It wasn't meant to be a regular production truck or a replacement for the Ford Ranchero, which stopped being made in 1979. Instead, Ford wanted it to compete with the smaller Chevrolet El Camino, so they had it made to sell at their dealerships. The first Durango was created by Jim Stevenson and his sons, Jim Jr. and Bill, at their workshop in Pacoima, California. They crafted the body by hand, and then they went to G&K Fiberglass in Sylmar, California, to make molds for the truck bed and tailgate. To build the Durango, National Coach Works used the body of the Ford Fairmont Futura two-door car. They took off the roof and the back seats, and they added a flat cargo bed made of fiberglass behind the front seats. They also put in a new window behind the seats and redesigned the back of the truck to have a tailgate that could fold down. They had to include a warning for drivers not to drive with the tailgate down because it held the license plate and tail lights. The Durango came with just one engine option, a 200 cubic inch inline six, which was the middle option for the Fairmont. It had a 3-speed automatic transmission. Because neither company kept good records, it's hard to know exactly how many Durangos were made. Estimates say anywhere from around 200 to 350, with National Coach Works making 212 of them. This makes the Durango one of Ford's most mysterious trucks. The project ended when the man who designed it passed away, so there are fewer than 212 of them left today. The Powell Pickup Truck, also known as the Sport Wagon, tells the story of an unusual venture by the Powell Manufacturing Company from Compton, California. Originally makers of radios and scooters, the Powell brothers, Channing Powell and Hayward Powell, expanded their expertise into vehicle production after a series of ventures and contributions to wartime efforts, including World War II and the Korean War. Post-Korea, they shifted focus from scooters to creating distinctive vehicles, launching the Sport Wagon pickup and a utility vehicle called the Station Wagon. Starting in 1954, the Powell trucks were uniquely assembled using refurbished chassis and engines from 1940 and 41 Plymouth sedans equipped with a 201 cubic inch 6-cylinder Mopar engine and introduced as the 1955 model year. Due to the mix-and-match approach with chassis and engines, no two Powell pickups are exactly alike. Some incorporated engines from different Plymouth years, while others featured Dodge and even Chrysler industrial engines. The trucks initially sported an all-steel body with a fiberglass front end, and early versions boasted oak bumpers and tailgates, which were later replaced with metal for safety reasons. A striking feature was the chrome grille, repurposed from the rear door of a 1950 Ford sedan, and the dashboard was designed around a standard Plymouth instrument cluster. In a nod to adaptability, some of the last trucks made in 1956 swapped out the Plymouth steering wheel for one from a Henry J. production trudged on until early 1957, by which time just over 1,000 trucks and around 300 sport wagons had been created, the latter starting in late 1956. The trucks were fairly basic, with options like turn signals and hubcaps in 1955, and the 1956 Deluxe model adding features like a diamond plate rear bumper and two-tone seats. A memorable feature across models was the innovative fishing pole storage tube that extended from the rear fender. With a wheelbase of 117 inches, a width of 72 inches, and a length of 168 inches, the Powell truck integrated the pickup box into the sheet metal body, unlike other American manufacturers at the time who attached the cab and box separately. Despite their creativity, the Powell Manufacturing Company faced bankruptcy by mid-1957, briefly returning in the 1960s to produce small trail motorcycles before ultimately closing in the late 1970s. Today, the Powell pickup truck is a rare find, cherished for its uniqueness and limited production run, somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 units. According to the Powell registry, only between 100 and 150 sport wagons exist today, though their conditions vary. The 1938 Plymouth PT57 is a pickup that emerged during an intriguing period in American history, as the nation was recovering from the Great Depression and edging closer to World War II. This vehicle stands as a testament to American resilience and innovation, transitioning from a commercial workhorse to a sought-after piece among collectors for its unique fusion of functionality and style. With its rounded fenders, striking grille, and assertive posture, the PT57 captures the essence of 1930s automotive design. Inside, it embraces a straightforward, durable interior, designed to endure the demands of work without unnecessary frills. Technologically, the PT57 was ahead of its time, boasting an all-steel body and a design that leaned towards aerodynamics more than its predecessors. It offered a range of colors, from practical tones to more vibrant options like reds and blues, appealing to a wide audience. The truck was available in different body styles, with the Express version featuring a side-mounted spare tire, standing out as particularly iconic. This pickup truck wasn't just about practicality. It brought a new level of style to the pickup category, blending the utility of a work vehicle with the aesthetics typically seen in passenger cars. Under the hood, the PT57 was powered by an inline-six engine, displacing 201 cubic inches and delivering between 70 and 85 horsepower. It featured a rear-wheel drive setup, a 3-speed manual transmission, hydraulic drum brakes, and sat on a 112-inch wheelbase. The vehicle's weight was recorded at 2,700 pounds. What makes the PT57 so special today is not just its rarity, but its significance in the automotive world and its emotional appeal. Rated highly for both looks and collectability, it embodies a slice of automotive history, symbolizing a period when cars were seen as marvels of innovation and style. In summary, the 1938 Plymouth PT57 pickup truck is more than just an old vehicle. It's a revered classic that showcases the best of its era in terms of reliability, style, and collector appeal, marking a golden chapter in the history of automotive design. The 1939 Studebaker L5 Coupe Express was a bold attempt by Studebaker to blend a car and a pickup truck into one vehicle, marking the end of a 3-year experiment with this innovative idea. This model stood out for being more mechanically advanced and better looking than its predecessors. It kept the basic design from the 1938 model, but introduced a sleek, Ford-inspired grille and new front-end design from the 1939 Commander car, making it look fresh and modern with headlights integrated into the fenders. Under the hood, it boasted a strong 6-cylinder engine paired with a 3-speed manual transmission. Studebaker even offered an optional overdrive transmission for better performance. Additional options included a radio, heater, a sliding back window with wire reinforcement, and turn signals. However, despite its appealing features and design, the Coupe Express struggled in sales. Its higher price compared to standard pickup trucks and the tough economic times meant there wasn't a big market for this luxury light-duty vehicle. After only managing to sell 1,000 units in 1938, production slightly increased to 1,200 in 1939, but it was clear the concept wasn't taking off. Studebaker decided to discontinue this hybrid model even before the 1939 models had cleared out of the showrooms. The 1939 Studebaker L5 Coupe Express is now a rare find due to its limited production and being the last model of its kind. With only about 1,200 units ever made, it has become a valuable collectible for car enthusiasts and collectors. Chevy Big 10 Truck, a special breed of the C10 half-ton pickup that roamed the streets from 1975 to 1980. Now, what set the Big 10 apart was its beefed-up capabilities. This wasn't just any old truck. It was a heavy-duty, two-wheel drive machine designed to handle more weight than your standard C10. Back in '79, the Big 10 was offered with an F44 package that was all about toughness. You had two choices for the front springs: either 1,625 or 1,700 pounds, and for the back, a solid 2,000 pounds capacity. Add to that heavy-duty power brakes, beefier tires, and the option of a 305 V8 engine. Pretty impressive, right? But here's the kicker. The Big Ten had a secret weapon. While other trucks were struggling with the new catalytic converters required in 1975, which meant you had to fill up with more expensive unleaded fuel, the Big Ten sidestepped that whole mess. Thanks to its gross vehicle weight rating, it dodged the catalytic converter requirement, offering a breath of fresh air to truck buyers, especially those in fleets who were still enjoying cheaper leaded fuel. This clever workaround didn't just stop at dodging the catalytic converter. GM also tweaked the standard C10 and C15 models with a special hood seal and underbody air dam to meet emission standards and offered a range of rear axle ratios aimed at better fuel economy. But with the Big Ten, you could opt for lower axle ratios and even a powerful 454 V8 engine if you wanted. Now, finding a Big Ten, especially one with the 454 engine straight from the factory, is like finding a needle in a haystack. Out of almost 800,000 trucks built for that model year, only 5,726 were short-bed big blocks. That's rare. As for the specs, the 1978 Big Ten was a beast. It came with a 350 cubic inch crate V8, new motor mounts, a 4-barrel carburetor, and headers that connected to a Flowmaster dual exhaust for that sweet sound. It boasted a rebuilt 3-speed automatic transmission, power steering and brakes, front disc brakes, and some models even had an aluminum radiator, dual electric fans, a lowered suspension for that sleek look, a wood bed, and custom exhaust. Not to mention the retro vibe with an AM/FM radio, tilt steering, and those cool 2022 billet specialty magneto wheels wrapped in thick tires. The 1961 Ford unibody pickup truck was a piece from Ford's F-Series lineup. It blended the cab and bed into one sleek piece of steel. Imagine that, a truck without the traditional gap between the cab and bed, all from way back in the early 60s. Ford rolled out this innovative unibody design in 1961, and it was something else. It allowed for a bigger cargo space, boasting 16% more room than its predecessors. But here's the twist. By 1964, Ford ditched this approach and went back to the classic body-on-frame setup. So why the short stint? Well, the unibody design was not just about looks, it was also a cost saver, cutting down on both materials and assembly time. The idea was pretty bold. With vehicles like the El Camino and Ranchero gaining popularity, Ford thought, why not make a truck that feels more like a car? They aimed at the suburban crowd, offering a vehicle that was practical yet stylish, something that could handle the chores but still be a smooth ride for the daily commute. Ford didn't stop at the unibody. They threw in 23 pounds of sound deadening in the cab, packed the seats with extra foam, and designed the doors to swing wider. Options like dealer-installed air conditioning, a panoramic rear window, and even optional seat belts and mirrors were all about adding comfort and choice. Under the hood, the standard power was a 223 cubic inch, 137 horsepower straight-six engine, paired with either a 3 or 4-speed manual transmission. And for those wanting more vroom, there was an optional 292 cubic inch V8. But here's the kicker. Despite its innovative design and features, the market didn't bite. The unibody truck had a significant flaw. Loaded up too much and the entire truck could bow, sometimes so severely that the doors jammed shut. Not exactly handy if you're trying to get into your truck, right? Because of these challenges, Ford said goodbye to the unibody design after just a couple of years. This makes the 1961 Ford unibody pickup a rare gem in today's collector market.
1937 Hudson Terraplane Pickup. This isn't your average vehicle transformation from a passenger car to a truck. It's more like it was always meant to be this rugged, overbuilt marvel that finally got to show its true colors. Let's rewind a bit. The Terraplane wasn't just any model. It was the brainchild of the Hudson Motor Car Company, making its grand entrance into the world between 1932 and 1938. Initially launched as a model by Hudson in 1932, the Terraplane quickly became its own brand, known for light-duty commercial vehicles that didn't break the bank. Back in its heyday, Hudson was praised for merging sleek passenger car vibes with the toughness of a work truck. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Picture this: a sedan that's been transformed by chopping off everything behind the front seat and sticking in a simple cargo bed between those rear fenders. The result? An absolute pre-war stunner with sleek, streamlined bodywork and an art moderne grille that just screams elegance. Inside, though, it's all business. A straightforward bench seat, rubber floor mat, and a gearshift that controls the Synchro Shift 3-speed transmission. The dashboard is pretty minimalistic too, with a big speedometer, fuel, and temperature gauges, plus a couple of warning lights keeping an eye on the oil pressure and charging system. But it's what's under the hood and beneath the body that really sets the Terraplane apart. Its chassis features monobuilt construction, think robust boxed frame rails, and a massive X-member in the center, making it sturdy enough to handle serious weight without breaking a sweat. The ride is low, with running boards sitting below the frame rails, offering easy access to a surprisingly low tailgate. Under the hood, it's powered by a 3.5-liter flathead engine, delivering between 96 to 112 horsepower. And with its 3-speed manual transmission, rear-wheel drive, and drum brakes, it was built to last. So why isn't the Terraplane a household name today? Despite outselling Hudson's other models in the mid-1930s and helping the company through the Great Depression, management decided to pull the plug on Terraplane after 1938, favoring the Hudson brand. Unfortunately, this decision sent Terraplane into the history books, and Hudson itself vanished just 16 years later after merging with Nash Kelvinator. Finding a 1937 Hudson Terraplane pickup today is like looking for a needle in a haystack. They're incredibly rare. Made for just 2 years, these pickups are now the stuff of collectors' dreams, with barely any up for sale at any given time. The 1952 International L120 pickup truck. This bad boy was part of the iconic L series by International Harvester, a lineup that pretty much had everything, from your handy light pickups and delivery trucks all the way to the big rigs, the tractor trailers. So back in 1949, International Harvester decided it was time to freshen things up and introduce the L series, waving goodbye to the older KB series. The L120 was a step above its little brother, the L110, boasting better suspension, tougher axles, and could haul more than a ton. Not just a local hero, this series also hit the roads down under in Australia, going by the AL series name. But as all good things must come to an end, the L series made way for the R series in 1952. Under the hood, the L120 was powered by a beast of an engine, the 220 cubic inch straight 6 Silver Diamond, driving the rear wheels. It featured a spacious Comfo Vision cab that could fit 3 adults comfortably, boasted 2-piece rear windows, and had a sleek hood that opened from either side. Talking specs: the 1952 model packed a 3,605 cc, or 220 cubic inch engine, kicking out 101 horsepower, with the engine up front and pushing power to the rear wheels. The design work? That was done by Hercules. Despite its solid engineering, the L120's looks might have been its weak spot. It had those rounded sides like many trucks of the era, but its grille? A bit too complex for some tastes. This could be why the L120 isn't as celebrated today as some other vintage trucks of its era. Today, the L120 is a treasure in the collector's world, a bit of a rare find with not as many made compared to its peers. Over the last 5 years, only 17 have been reported sold, making it quite the catch for vintage truck enthusiasts. So there you have it, the 1952 International L120 pickup truck, a slice of automotive history that highlights International Harvester's knack for engineering. Even if it's not the talk of the town today, it still holds a cherished spot among collectors and vintage truck fans alike. 1988 Nissan Hardbody Desert Runner. A truck that's as cool as it sounds. Picture this: Nissan, fresh off their victories in some of the toughest off-road races out there, Think the Baja 1000, Gold Coast 300, and Mint 400 decides to celebrate in style. They don't just slap a new sticker on a regular truck and call it a day. They go all out and create the Desert Runner, a truck that's basically an off-road beast you can just buy and drive straight out of the showroom. This isn't your average pickup. It's decked out with everything you'd need for the wild. Big 31-inch tires, sturdy tubular bumpers and step bars, a front bull bar equipped with driving lights for those late-night adventures, and a front skid plate to protect its underbelly. And because it's all about that Baja race vibe, it sports racing decals, a massive bed-mounted roll cage with more driving lights, a spot for your spare tire, and a tailgate net. Cargo space? Nissan didn't really put that at the top of the list when designing this one. Under the hood, every Desert Runner packs a punch with Nissan's 3-liter VG30 V6 engine, pushing out 145 horsepower and 164 pound-feet of torque. This power goes to all 4 wheels through a tough 2-speed transfer case and a 5-speed manual transmission, with a limited slip differential to make sure you're always moving forward no matter the terrain. Now you might be wondering, if this truck is so awesome, why isn't it more famous? Well, it's rare, like really rare. Nissan only made about 1,000 of these beasts for the 1988 model year. This exclusivity makes the Desert Runner one of the most coveted versions of the Nissan D21 chassis. The Desert Runner is a niche vehicle, through and through. Designed with off-road racing in mind, it wasn't exactly the go-to choice for someone needing a versatile and practical pickup for daily chores. Its unique features, like the roll cage and spare tire mounted in the bed, might not make much sense if you're just cruising through the city. Despite flying under the radar, the Desert Runner has a special spot in the hearts of Japanese car enthusiasts and collectors. Its rarity, combined with its standout features and off-road prowess, make it a prized find. Whenever one pops up at auction, it's a pretty big deal. 1968 F250, part of their 5th-gen F-Series. This truck was a real workhorse, built during 1967 to 1972, when Ford wasn't really into making big changes with each model year. Instead, they focused on making solid, reliable trucks. The F250 was designed to handle up to 3/4 of a ton of whatever you needed to haul. That year, Ford's lineup was pretty impressive, with the F100, F250, and F350 each coming in different sizes and styles. From the half-ton F100 with its 2 wheelbase options to the 1-ton F350 and its super spacious crew cab version, there was something for everyone who needed a durable truck. While other brands were making their trucks sleeker and more rounded, Ford stuck to its guns. The 1968 F-Series trucks were all about sharp lines, a boxy look, and a bold horizontal line that split the sides. The wheel wells were straight-edged, and the grille was more detailed than what you'd find on other trucks. Under the hood, Ford kept things exciting by introducing a couple of new engines. The 360 and 390 cubic-inch powerhouses, alongside the 302, which took over from the discontinued 289 hypo. Depending on the setup, the 302 engine could pump out between 210 to 230 horsepower. For the ride, these trucks boasted the twin I-beam independent suspension, a setup designed to take a beating and last longer. The back of the truck had the Flexomatic suspension, which adjusted on the fly depending on how much load you were carrying. This made for a truck that wasn't just tough, but also smart about how it carried its weight. Despite its strengths, the 1968 F250 isn't without its critics. Some owners talk about engine problems, like a knocking noise that's hard to ignore, and there were many other problems reported at that time. This might be the reason that this vintage model to get overlooked. Tempo Matador. Picture this. Hamburg, Germany, late 1940s. Europe's getting back on its feet after the war, and there's a big need for practical, reliable vehicles. Enter the Tempo Matador, rolling off the production lines of Vidal and Sona from 1949 to 1951. This wasn't just any truck. It was a game-changer with its front-wheel drive and a trusty Volkswagen engine under the hood. Yep, you heard that right. A front-wheel drive truck in the 1950s, powered by a 25-horsepower VW engine. This thing was ahead of its time. The Matador was all about practicality. With its ZF non-synchro 4-speed gearbox and the engine right at the front, it offered something a bit different on the post-war roads. Over just a couple of years, from 1949 to 1951, Tempo churned out 1,362 of these bad boys. But then, the plot thickens. Volkswagen, seeing the success of the Matador, thought, "Hey, why not make our own truck?" And just like that, they stopped supplying engines to Tempo. Talk about a plot twist. So, Tempo had to pivot. They went with a British Austin water-cooled 4-cylinder engine for their next moves. But let's not forget, the Matador is a rare beast today. Imagine, out of all those made, less than 10 are thought to exist now. That's some serious collector's gold right there. But why isn't the Matador a household name in the car world? Well, it's a mix of things. Its short production run, for starters, plus the fact that Volkswagen kind of left them in the dust when they decided to roll out their own truck, the Transporter. That move alone might have cast a long shadow over the Matador's legacy. In wrapping up, the Tempo Matador story is like a hidden gem in automotive history. It had innovation, practicality, and even a bit of drama with the whole engine saga. Even though it didn't become a legend on the roads, it's a fascinating chapter for car enthusiasts and a rare treasure for collectors. The Ford Skyranger. Imagine a truck so unique there are less than 20 of these bad boys around the globe. Yep, we're talking unicorn-level rare here. So, what's the deal with the Skyranger? Let's hit the rewind button back to the 1980s. Ford was pumping out the F-Series trucks like hotcakes. These trucks were the talk of the town with their boxy looks and growling engines. But by the late 80s, Ford started jazzing things up with sleeker designs and fancier features. Despite rolling out over 150 truck models during that decade, none of them really broke the mold. Until the early 90s. Enter the Ford Skyranger. This wasn't your average pickup truck. Ford went all out by handing over the reins to an external team to bring this concept to life. But despite their efforts, the Skyranger didn't quite hit it off with the masses, leading Ford to put the brakes on production after just 17 units. Now let's talk specs. The 1991 Skyranger wasn't just any pickup truck. It packed a punch with a 4-liter V6 engine, pushing out 155 horsepower. Pair that with a 5-speed manual transmission and 4-wheel drive, and you've got yourself a truck that could tackle just about anything. But here's the kicker. The Skyranger came with a convertible extended cab. Imagine cruising with the top down in a pickup truck. Pretty cool, right? But why did the Skyranger fade into obscurity? Well, it was a niche product to begin with. A convertible pickup truck is not something you see every day. Plus, outsourcing its production meant only a handful were ever made. These factors combined made the Skyranger more of a myth than a mainstream hit. International Harvester KSeries Pickup. Launched back in the early 40s by International Harvester, one of the giants in American agricultural machinery, this lineup of trucks was all about ruggedness, a design that stood the test of time, and affordability that caught everyone's eye. The K-Series wasn't just any truck lineup, it was a massive family of 42 different models, with an impressive range of 142 wheelbase lengths and load capacities stretching from the everyday half-ton all the way up to a whopping 90,000 pounds. Talk about variety! These trucks were categorized from K1 to K14. Based on how much they could haul, K1 was your go-to half-ton, K2 bumped it up to 3/4 of a ton, K3 was the 1-ton heavyweight, and it just went up from there. The K1 and K2 were pretty similar in terms of what was under the hood and the chassis design, but the K2 packed a punch with a stronger suspension. As for the K3, it stepped up its game with a sturdier frame, bigger brakes, and rear axles that meant serious business. And if we're talking heavy-duty, the K4 was in a league of its own with its artillery-style wheels. In 1947, the K-Series got a stylish upgrade with the KB models, adding a bit of flair with a widened lower grille that looked like wings and some sleek chrome detailing. This line kept on trucking until 1949 when it passed the baton to the more modern L-Series. But here's the thing. Despite their built-to-last design and wallet-friendly price, the K and KB series trucks have kind of faded into the background, often left gathering dust in barns or ending up as forgotten treasures in junkyards. Why? Well, for starters, they weren't the easiest to drive. Their transmissions were notoriously tough to handle, especially since they didn't have synchronized gears. These trucks were built to haul serious weight, thanks to their transmission and rear-end gearing, but that made them a bit of a challenge for everyday driving compared to other trucks from the same era. Another reason they're not as celebrated today is simply the competition. With the abundance of restored Ford and Chevy classic trucks out there, international KB trucks are rare gems. They offer a unique touch to the classic truck scene, but finding one can be a bit of a treasure hunt. They're out there, rare and affordable, waiting for someone to rediscover their rugged charm and bring them back to life. The 1952 Mercedes-Benz 170 pickup truck. This is a truck that almost nobody knows about, but it's a piece of automotive history with a story worth telling. So let's get the backstory. After World War II, Mercedes-Benz was picking up the pieces and started rolling out the Mercedes-Benz 170 in various styles. Among these was the pickup truck version, which kicked off way back in 1936. It quickly became a bestseller, showing that Mercedes knew a thing or two about making versatile vehicles, not just luxury cars. Now picture this, a 1952 model with a modest 1.7-liter engine under the hood, churning out 38 horsepower. This workhorse came with a 4-speed manual transmission, making it a pretty reliable ride back in the day. And for those who were into diesel, there was a version just for them, boasting a slightly beefier 1.8-liter engine. Despite its modest specs by today's standards, back then, it was quite the machine. But why don't we hear much about this cool ride today? Well, a few reasons. First off, Mercedes-Benz wasn't exactly famous for its trucks back then, like it is for its sleek cars today. Plus, the pickup wasn't mass-produced like other models, making it a rare sight. And let's be honest, the tech and design of the 170 pickup might seem a bit quaint compared to the flashy vehicles we see now. Speaking of rare, let's talk numbers. Only 35 of these pickups were made in 1952, all for customers in Switzerland. That's it. If you find one today, you've hit the vintage jackpot. There's talk that less than 80 of these beauties were ever put together, making any sighting a rare treat.
1955 Chevrolet Apache pickup truck. This beauty wasn't just any truck. It was part of Chevy's Task Force series, which took over from the Advanced Design series and ran from late 1955 all the way to 1959. These trucks had some cool names. The light-duty ones were known as the Apache, medium-duty were called the Viking, and the heavy-duty trucks were dubbed the Spartan. So, what made the Apache stand out? Well, it was a major step up in terms of design and features. It was bigger, stronger, and way sleeker than its predecessors. One of the coolest things about it? It was the first in its line to offer a V8 engine since, believe it or not, 38 years. That's right, under the hood, it boasted a 265 cubic inch engine, making it a powerhouse of its time. The design took a leap forward with the industry's first wraparound windshield, and for those who opted for the deluxe cab models, you got a wraparound rear window too. The fenders had this sleek single headlight look with a one-piece emblem that just screamed modern. And for the first time in GM history, you could get trucks with power steering and power brakes, not to mention the upgrade to a 12-volt electrical system. Oh, and let's not forget, 1955 was the only year they offered a 7-foot-long bed, which was pretty unique. Diving into the specs, the Apache had a 114.0-inch wheelbase, weighed in at 3,385 pounds, and had a 17-gallon fuel tank. Engine-wise, you had the choice between a 235 cubic inch Thriftmaster or the beefier 265 cubic inch Taskmaster V8, paired with a 3-speed manual transmission. But here's the kicker, folks. Why is the 1955 Apache considered a rare find today? Firstly, the Task Force series itself was a short-lived era, making any truck from this line a piece of history. And secondly, it had a bunch of one-year-only features like that 7-foot bed and the option for fender markers, cab trim, and that optional V8. If you got yourself an Apache fleet side, it even came with chrome trim along the box sides. Finding one with that last set of box trim? That's like finding a diamond in the rough. The GMC Sonoma GT, a cool and rare bird in the compact pickup truck scene. Imagine this. Back in 1992, GMC decided to stir the pot a bit. They introduced the Sonoma GT, a truck that borrowed its swagger from the turbocharged GMC Cyclone, but without hitting your wallet as hard or delivering that turbo punch. Here's a little background for you. Initially, this truck was known as the S15, kind of like its cousin, the Chevy S10. But GMC thought, nah, let's spice it up, and renamed it the Sonoma. And to add that special sauce, they rolled out the Sonoma GT, assembled with care by GMC Truck and given its final touches by Production Automotive Services over in Michigan. So what set the Sonoma GT apart? Picture this. It rocked a Cyclone-inspired body kit. While it shared the front and rear bumpers with the Cyclone, the rest of its aero kit was a bit more laid back. It wasn't just about looks, it included practical bits like fender bumperettes, lower door skirts, and those sleek rear quarter bed corners. Now, stepping inside the Sonoma GT was like getting a hint of the Cyclone vibe, with black and red piping on the door inserts and bucket seats. Although GMC decided to skip the embroidered logo on the headrest, the dashboard was pretty much a Cyclone clone, except for one little thing, no boost gauge, because remember, this truck didn't pack a turbo. Under the hood, the Sonoma GT boasted a beefy L35 Vortec 4.3-liter V6 engine, pumping out 195 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. This power was managed by an automatic 4L60 transmission, sending it all to the rear wheels. GMC didn't stop there. They threw in some top-notch Bilstein shocks, a smart torsion bar setup with dual-stage leaf springs and power brakes, all riding on BF Goodrich Comp TA tires. This setup gave the truck a solid grip and reliable braking, even without the turbo thrust. But here's the kicker. The Sonoma GT is super rare. Only 806 of these trucks were ever made, making it the unicorn of the Sport Machines lineup. They rolled out in a few cool colors like black, apple red, white, aspen blue, teal, and forest green.
1971. Ford Ranchero GT. This car-truck combo isn't just any vehicle. It's a classic that tells the story of innovation born from necessity. Picture this. Back in the 1930s, Australian farmers were in a tough spot. They needed a ride that could do double duty, take the family around and also lug goods to the market. Enter Lou Bant, a designer at Ford Australia, who had a light bulb moment. He mixed a coupe with a cargo box, creating the ultimate utility vehicle, or ute, which became a hit in the Australian outback for years. Fast forward to the United States, where the Ranchero carved out its own little niche, sparking rivals like the Chevy El Camino and GMC Sprint to pop up. Though it didn't fly off the shelves like in other countries, Ford kept the Ranchero rolling out until 1979. Especially from 1970 to 1971, the Ranchero, available in various trims including the GT and Squire, became a budget-friendly option for muscle car fans. The 1971 model, part of the fifth generation, brought some fresh vibes and better performance to the table. It took some cues from its big brother, the Ford Torino, but added its own twist with a boxier look. And get this, any Ranchero could be decked out with a 429 Cobra jet engine, boasting 370 horsepower, all thanks to a Rochester 4-barrel carburetor. This particular GT model we're talking about had some cool features like a Ram air hood and air conditioning. It sported a factory-correct red paint job, though it was given a new lease on life with a fresh coat of paint after being stripped down to bare metal. Originally sold in California, it has a story that starts on the iconic Route 66. Despite its standout features and solid performance, the Ranchero GT flew under the radar. While the rest of the world was getting into unit-body car-based pickups, the U.S. market was moving in a different direction. Production numbers were modest, with just over 21,000 Rancheros made in 1970 and about 24,946 in 1971, including a few thousand GTs. Even though it was often overshadowed by the Torino and its variants, the Ranchero didn't just sit back. It benefited from a bunch of upgrades, making this generation one of the most formidable yet. Nowadays, the Ranchero still holds a bit of mystery for many car enthusiasts. The 1958 Willys Jeep pickup, also known as the Super Hurricane. Picture this, a beast powered by the L6226 engine. We're talking about a solid cast iron block and cylinder head, with 6 cylinders that bring to life an engine with a bore of 3 5/16 inches and a stroke of 4 3/8 inches. This gives us a hefty 226.2 cubic inches of piston displacement. What does all that mean? It means this engine pumps out 105 horsepower at 3,600 revolutions per minute and hits a max torque of 190 pound-feet at just 1,400 revolutions per minute. Back in the day, after World War II, everyone was craving new vehicles, and Willys was right there to catch the wave. They introduced four-wheel drive across all body styles in 1949, which was a game-changer. By 1951, the 2x2 pickup was out and four-wheel drive was in, staying that way until production wrapped up in 1964. The late 1950s were all about flash and chrome in the car world, and Willys, even with their more practical approach, wanted in on the action. Enter the Maverick package for the 1958 model, adding some unique body-side trim and optional two-tone paint for both the two-wheel and four-wheel drive models. Despite its cool features, the 1958 Willys Jeep pickup with the L6226 engine didn't get the spotlight it deserved. It was a workhorse at a time when the world was looking at the glitz and glamour of other cars. Even with a robust and reliable engine, it was seen as a bit old-school because it stuck with an in-block valve design rather than moving to the more modern overhead valve setups. The Willys Jeep pickup was designed with function in mind, but even with its Maverick makeover, it wasn't viewed as a luxury or particularly stylish ride. Its real strengths, durability, reliability, and being a champ off-road, weren't the hottest tickets for the average buyer back then.